Well, if you've been wondering why I haven't been making videos recently, I got into this again. Mino here. This is Satisfactory, and I just spent another 200 some odd hours beating the game again. I don't know what it is about this thing, but I just love it. Anyway, I think I did a lot better on both the logistics and the aesthetics this time, so I thought I'd give you guys a tour. And then I want to actually put this save file on our Discord. So if you want to play with it later, feel free. It'll be around. Aren't they cute? On our way over, I thought I'd point out that this is a modded game. Quite a few mods. However, no cheaty mods, no alternate recipes, no duping, no extra power, sheerly cosmetics. Things like an elevator, glowing beams, cheaper lights, things like that. Things so we could spruce it up a little easier than we could in the vanilla game. But if you don't want to use any mods, don't worry. Some of the structural pieces will disappear, but the factory will still be working. The power's generated okay, and all of the stuff is automated without mods, so no big deal. Not only are the mods cosmetic, they are also standard Satisfactory mod manager mods. So you don't have to hunt and peck or look for a list to manually install them. If you load up the save, it should prompt you that you need these mods and auto download them. So it's a pretty easy chore to get caught up. So we're starting our tour here in the Blue Crater. This is the same place I made fuel last time. I believe I was just making turbo fuel right down here. But this time we got rocket fuel going. I found an alternate recipe for rocket fuel that made it pretty easy to find everything we needed to local to here. And just set up some blenders off here to the side, converting all of the turbo fuel from over there. And look at all of these generators. All in all, it's just enough to make 40k power. We're using 37, so got a little bit to spare, but not a ton. If you're gonna expand from here, you'll probably want to juice this up, but there is more playroom. I'm only using a couple of the oil wells over there to make all of this, and we have a couple of untapped sulfur, one untapped coal, I believe, but definitely room to add power shards to increase what's there, and a couple of oil nodes back over here, all ready to go. So if you wanted to expand this while you're playing around, it should be pretty easy to make more power. Now, on slightly to the north to the bauxite, so that can show you where I'm pulling aluminum. Now, making our basic aluminum up here at the bauxite just north of the Blue Crater. Pretty easy setup. Bauxite comes in here. I've got water from the nearby water source just over there to the east. And the coal, there's some various coal to the east as well. I have all of that being fed right in here. And that limestone is to go into this refiner to make wet cement. That's how I'm getting rid of my wastewater, because I couldn't quite get that to balance right. When the train came, it would clog up. It was a mess, so got a buffer, got wet cement going, and it's running smooth as can be. Now, the quickest way from here to our main area is actually to take this train. So I'm going to sit around and ride it back home. Now, our next stop is just northeast of here, right there where all the SAM is. Blue Crater is right here. There's where the bauxite is, and that's where we're going. This train also carries SAM back home. right there. Huge SAM deposit. All we're doing is making the reanimated SAM and kicking it right over into this train. It's got 2 cars for the aluminum scrap and 1 for the SAM. That seems to be doing the trick. Now, right over here on the edge of everything is our initial oil setup. When we first started, I did a desert run this time, and this was the nearest oil source. We use this for our plastic and rubber, and as you can see, it's still kind of in use. Sometimes stuff gets used out of here. Sometimes it gets backed up, but when it doesn't, it's handy. I've got a couple of drones and a couple of trucks that are all shipping things out from here, and one more tractor that's coming from way down there that's tapping into some of that oil in the far north and bringing it along. Notice that train stopping there and going? Let me tell you, those block signals, that was not the easiest thing to figure out. Very glad those work. Anyway, one more stop, and then I'll show you the main base. This is our only really remote factory, at least developed factory, and it's at the end of our other train line. This is where we're making computers and heavy modular frames. I was running low on both of those back at the main base, so we make more here. The computers and modular frames are going in right there, and it's an alternate Caterium recipe that I'm using for the computers, and so the Caterium is right there. This last one, motors. Never can have too many motors, and I had enough stuff to build more, so why not? I had room on the train. Want to take a peek inside? So it's a pretty straightforward setup. We have circuit boards being made here, and that gets fed in to make the computers right there. Simple little 2-step process. And the heavy modular frames are being kicked out right here. And so here's all the basics that it needs. And we can pop upstairs real quick. I'll show you what's going on over there. Up here is where all the basic processing is taking place. The ore is coming back over in here, smelted out, and this is where we're getting things like, iron sheets, nails, things like that, rods, and all of that's being shipped downstairs to make the cool stuff. And yeah, that is really all that is happening here. The only reason I did it over here is because I ended up needing more steel, and we got those coal right back over there. Just to the side of the factory, you'll notice all of these ores coming down from here. That's because I needed copper powder. And when you're making nuclear pasta, it just eats up the copper powder. Is he not going to let me up here? Oh yeah. I use it over here. There we go. See that? Copper powder going to a drone. That's really all that's happening here. I use the iron to ship out over here because I didn't like the location of that one iron node, and well, honestly, I needed more iron than I was able to kick out from one node. So, problem solved. And if you notice this little shaft here, that's an elevator. That's one of the mods that I have. Is that not the neatest thing? So, you want that mod. It's not cheating, but it beats the hell out of ladders, doesn't it? Alright, so we can take the tube, or we can take the train, The train is nowhere nearby. So let's take the tube. This is where the rest of the magic happens. Fort Awesome. It's pretty much the whole desert. Tons of stuff here. So this is where we started. Basic materials. And this is where I built all of the first run stuff. The nails, the rods, the sheets, but the stuff when you first have to build it. The only thing I didn't do, which I'm not really sure why I didn't do it, I guess I just never needed it, is rods. This is for Fixmas. If you celebrate Fixmas, spare boxes to keep gifts in when they're fallen. Anyway, storing iron rods. I've always just gone into this machine and boop, taken some. And then it feeds it back in, and I'll take more if I need it. Everything else I have a box for. I think I just ran out of room and got lazy about redoing that. Our initial home base, the hub, dimensional depot, workshop, MAM, awesome shop, and the biomass burners, which are now pretty much completely useless, but I like to keep them around. Right next door is our initial copper. This is the iron sheets, the wire. We also have cement, all coming into here. Basic building blocks between that building and right here. And this is where it gets a little higher tech, but not by much. Regular old modular frames, a goofy truck who seems to not know where it's going. I don't know. It'll flash blue and get where it needs to go. The auto drives, I mean, they get there, but they're not perfect. See? And at the top of this building is the versatile framework. Right over here to the side is where that is stored up. Right there. Now this is kind of the first fancy thing we built, and it ships out through the roof and over the back, and that's where that other truck picks up and drives off to build bigger and better things. Now just off to the porch, this is where we get to our basic steel. Right here. Now, our first batch of motors was coming from here. I did build more and have them train in because, yep, we needed more. Automated wiring. Over on the other entrance over there, that's the quick way to get to the stuff like the steel sheets, steel pipe, things like that. You can get in through here, but that other entrance is a bit quicker because it's a bit crowded in here. I hadn't quite gotten interior design down yet when I was working on this part. It gets better as we move along, but this just kind of makes do. Motors are being made in this lower part of the building. Right in that little cubby hole is where the final production is. And if you head over to the west side of the building, that is where the automated wiring gets kicked out. Now this over here is the original entrance that I had said was the easier way to get to the pipes and whatnot. Down over here, adaptive control units. Now this is where we hit our first little snag, and I'll show you what's going on. This machine is making adaptive control units, and we have plenty of everything we need to be cranking them out. Pretty much on the button. Now unfortunately, it's only making one a minute. Over here in another building, we're using adaptive control units to make a late game product, but it needs 1.5 per minute. So we're losing. That means we don't have any in storage at the moment, but we're almost caught up. I'll show you where that other thing is at. Once it catches up with its production and its container gets full, then we'll start building surplus of them back over here again. Oh, don't run me over, little guy. Okay, so that guy is taking computers out of here. Yep. And driving them to be used. And over here is another fancy little building tucked in the background. It's back over here because I needed the Caterium. We're making AI limiters and high-speed connectors over here in this building. This downstairs area is dedicated just to the AI limiter, which is actually a pretty simple recipe. Everything's kicking in through right here into this one little production area. We just have that overclocked and sending everything up and out. So AI limiters, very easy. The high-speed connectors, though, they got a little cheekier. There we go. So yeah, they take a little bit more effort, let's say. But we got them going, and we got them going fast. Look at that. Look at that spool of wire right there. Isn't that nice? Anyway, this is kicking out 7.5 per minute at a 200% overclock, and storing here when it can, but mostly going out as well. Now both of these belts lead out to a train, which we have this train carrying these AI limiters and high-speed connectors over there to this side of the desert where they're getting used up. Now, let's go right over here. Just across the way, there is a road that leads over here. Two of them, actually. And this is where we're making our crystal oscillators. This building is pretty singular in purpose. Everything feeding all the way down here. These manufacturers, they're making our oscillators. They are slooped and they are overclocked. We need a ton of crystal oscillators, partially because I'm using a couple of alternate recipes that takes advantage of them. But yeah, we needed a lot, so we're making a lot. This is taking the quartz in from way over there, feeding the oscillators out here, and we've got a couple of trucks with a nice divided line to pick up and deliver as needed. Now you may see over there, right back over there, is a building. That's the only other building that I don't have a clear shot over to. Even our tractors just kind of hop the dunes to get there. So let's go ahead and get that out of the way. Over here in the west, I have another building set aside for heavy modular frames and stators. Now I may have been able to upgrade this a little bit for the heavy modular frames, but not a ton. And yeah, we needed a lot more. So the Northern Forest second set works great. This one, however, we still need. So it is nice and active. Standard setup to go. Everything's being fed in here, through to the manufacturer. Little storage area for all of the surplus, which we now have a ton of surplus. At one point we needed a lot more than what we need now. We got caught up with nuclear pasta and things like that, so we don't use what we used to. Could probably throw a lot of that in the sink and get it going again, but one of our mods is the coupon mod, and I've already got everything I want to get. Look at these guys. Aren't they just great? I mean, they'll go. This other building right over there, there's also a little bit of a standalone. That's circuit boards. Can never have too many circuit boards. So I'm making those over there and have a truck that ships them out. Nice and easy. This is where we're getting a whole bunch of coal. Look how fast that's moving. That's because that's making diamonds. If you guys have gotten to the point that you have particle accelerators making diamonds, you'll know how much coal that eats. It's rough. Quick little quartz mine back over here. And then we get to the fun stuff right over here. I do have a couple of truck stops. We have steel plates going in here because at one point I needed extra steel plates. I don't think I do anymore, but I just never tore it down. We also have the basics for gunpowder there. Not the smokeless powder, just the regular stuff. The smokeless powder, I have a little crate to dump that in over at the other oil spot that I was showing you. And yeah, it'll convert it. Now this pretty building here is where we make our fix-it ingots. They're converted to trigons and stuff at other spots, but the basic ingot is right here. It's just the refineries at the bottom, converters at the top, and the ore is being brought in on the train. And that's the train that we used to get here in the first place, so we just hopped off early. And that aluminum scrap, which is the other part, gets dumped into this building right here, which that's where the aluminum production happens. Let's take the rest of this on foot. Very basic aluminum setup, just tons of smelters on both sides. Then we got our assemblers over here to make our aluminum sheets, and our constructors over here to make our aluminum casings, which all go into the back along with the crystal oscillators that we saw. And that is where we're making our radio control units, which we're making a ton. That's another one of those slooped and overclocked numbers that are just cranking them out. That walkway leads to the next area and shortcuts the cooling systems, but I want to show you guys the cooling systems. So we'll take the long way. So it's a pretty basic cooling system setup. This is the blender that's making everything, and yep, slooped and overclocked. Overclocked just a bit. All of that is based on our number of heat sinks. We're using heat sinks in a couple of spots, and I didn't want to spend more. The pipeline's bringing in the liquids, all of the solids coming in, and it is stored in a little bucket right here, and then goes up there for shipping out. Now, the only way upstairs is this elevator right here. So if you don't get the mods, you'll have to build a ladder or something, because no stairs. Up here is where we're building thermal propulsion rockets, these guys. And we're also building turbo motors. Now the turbo motors, it looks like that is full. And the thermal propulsion rockets, I think it's only making enough to do one other build, which is over in this next building, I think. We're almost done with those two. If you go out the back door here, there's one of our drone ports and Minos' private ThinkPad. Now, I know that sounds pretty pretentious, and it kind of is. But the only thing here, blueprint makers. So if you want to play with blueprints, this is the spot. And it's got a cool view, so you can just kind of watch. Back to the cooling system room, and we can go right around the corner and get to the rest of the main factory. This is the drone that's bringing everything into the cooling system. And at this building next door, this is where our particle accelerators are that are making time crystals and diamonds. And they are busy, busy. In the spirit of overclocking, we do have the particle accelerator overclocked. It's kicking out 60 diamonds a minute. Now Now that's being broken in half. 30 are going into these converters and being made into time crystals, and 30 are being just dropped into the diamond bucket. Both of those are being fed through the roof because they go over here for further processing. Further along in this factory is also where we're making a bunch of phase 5 stuff. The magnetic field generator, electromagnetic control rods are right over there, and some other fun stuff further down, like the supercomputers right over here, and the biochemical sculptor right over here. Now the biochemical sculptors look like they are done, which that's good news because we need those assembly directors to stop pretty soon, actually. Yeah, that's where our adaptive control units are getting backlogged. I'd mentioned that we were running shy on those. This is why. So, as soon as this catches up, which this bucket is almost full, then this will back up, which that'll let us start building surplus of that, and then we'll actually have those to spare. Now, you can always sloop that or overclock it or play with it as needed if you get in a big rush, but right now I don't really need it. Coming out of that building and going right next door, we go into our quantum processing building. Now this is where all of the final stuff gets built. This is the big boy room right here. I'm going to point out a problem that we have with it. It's not really a super big problem, but it's one that you need to keep an eye on. Now, these are the drop buckets for most everything. The oscillators right here, superposition oscillators, they're dropped in this bucket. Those little neural things are dropped into this bucket, although there's no surplus of that right now. That's all being used. And the AI expansion servers are being dropped in this bucket. And these being made so fast is where the root of our problem is. See, all of this stuff is being used to make that residue right here. And that residue is what is powering this to make dark energy crystals. Now, the dark energy crystals are being used at 60 per minute. And this is making 60 per minute. So we're striking even. And that means if that AI expansion server gets finished, which that bucket will get full, then that residue is going to slow down. When it slows down, that slows down. And when that slows down, we're not making enough dark crystals anymore. So the only thing you'd really need to do is come over here and shut off this machine. Now this manufacturer is using 40 of those 60 for the ballistic warp drive. And we're already done with the game, so there's no need for this, with the exception of throw it in a sink and get coupons. And this bucket is filling slower than the expansion bucket. So at some point you might have to do some inventory juggling just to make sure that that dark energy doesn't slow down. But all you'd really have to do is take some stuff out of this right here, throw it in the sink, and everything will start right back up. One thing I was testing in this is if a drone would go into a building as long as you left a little opening for it. See that thing settling in? That means the answer is yes. So this is just a hole in the roof, and the drone goes in, the drone comes out. Doesn't seem to have a problem. You can see our other big drone plate up here. I have 5 drone ports that all go to various spots, some quite local. I think one of them just jumps right over here, but I got tired of all the belts. You can already see I've hidden a lot, and you can still see a lot. So rather than try to elevate this and feed things under, I thought, why not? I got spare juice. I'll just use drones. And just off to the side of our quantum building over here and our particle building over here is one of our first startup fancy buildings. This is where we made our smart plate to begin with, but modular engines is where it ended up. I have all of the ore coming in from this wall, getting all processed right here and feeding into our manufacturers over on this side, which all dump into a bucket as per usual. And yes, buried over here to the side, that big red door leads to our Fixmas area. As of the time of recording, Fixmas is only on day 7, so we just have the first Fixmas trees and a few simple decorations, but it will get nicer before it's over with. I hope you guys dig the new setup. I cannot make a promise that this game is out of my system yet. I would not be surprised if round 3 shows up at some point. I know there's a 1.1 that's due out like in January or February, so depending on its release window and everything, yeah, you might be seeing another one from me. For now, though, I hope this helped you out, and you can hop on our Discord and check it out for yourself. Thanks for joining, guys. Talk to you next time.